Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Alberta hit a new record when it comes to new active COVID-19 cases over the weekend. Labour groups are demanding the Kenney government to lock down the province. The federal Tories are saying the commercial rent relief program for small businesses is too little too late. And more than 500 needy kids will be helped this Christmas thanks to a Lethbridge initiative called Shop of Wonders.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Alberta set another single-day record on Sunday with 1,584 COVID-19 cases. Meanwhile, today, there were 1,549 new coronavirus cases. There are currently 328 people in hospital with the virus, including 62 in ICU. It's the sixth time our province has reported more than 1,000 cases in a single day. By comparison, Ontario, which has 3 times the population of Alberta, reported 1,589 new cases today. Toronto and Peel region are currently in lockdown. Quebec, which has twice the population of Alberta, reported 1,154 new cases. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dean Henshaw, hinted that we could see new measures being implemented soon as cases continue to climb.
Today, I will meet with the Priorities Implementation Committee of Cabinet to discuss a series of new measures to reduce the rising spread of COVID-19.
There are also 5 new deaths today in Alberta, bringing the total number in our province to 476. According to recent stats, the total number of healthy Albertans who've actually died from COVID-19 with no underlying health conditions is 10. Now, to talk about this in more detail is Toronto Sun columnist Anthony Furey. Anthony, so when you were digging around in the Alberta Health website, hundreds of others who had died had underlying health conditions?
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, 75% of Albertans who died of coronavirus did so with 3 or more underlying health conditions, ranging from more common ailments like hypertension to much more serious ones like cancer. And only 2.5% of people who died of coronavirus in Alberta had 0 underlying health conditions. So we're beginning to get a much bigger picture of actually who is heavily affected by this and who is tragically dying of it.
Now, how old were those who died?
80 and over is generally the average number that we are facing with here. In fact, new numbers out from Statistics Canada show us that during the first wave, not a single Canadian under the age of 45 died of coronavirus without an underlying medical condition.
You've interviewed doctors who've attended to COVID-19 patients. How concerned should we be in this fight against the virus?
During the first wave, we should all be, and they were very concerned because they saw this thing in Wuhan and then it moved to Italy and Iran, and they had no clue what it was, how to treat it, and it was possible that people in their prime would be getting it very severely and dropping like flies. They have since learned that's not the case. The profile of it has changed, and as the doctors attending to COVID patients tell me, they have actually advanced greatly in terms of how to treat patients, turn around their ICU stay time, their hospital stay time to make them get out sooner, because they've learned basic things like what drugs do we give people, how much of it, what duration, and so forth. And that's done great progress in terms of dealing with patients.
That was Toronto Sun columnist Anthony Furey. A coalition of labour groups is calling on the Alberta government to order a lockdown to help reverse the uptick in coronavirus cases. It also says the province should require masks to be worn in public places throughout Alberta. The COVID-19 crisis resolution has been signed by 18 unions, including the United Nurses of Alberta and the Canadian Union of Public Employees. The resolution does not give a firm timeline on how long the proposed lockdown should be. The Blood Tribe Police have issued a warning about a highly concentrated batch of drugs. Police, along with the Blood Tribe EMS, responded to 15 overdoses over the weekend. They say there has been 1 death, but that was not considered suspicious. They're asking community members to check on those who are most vulnerable. Police say free Narcan kits are available at the community's detox center. Manitoba's Chief Public Health Officer continues to urge residents to only leave their homes for essential purposes. The province identified 543 new cases of COVID-19 today, along with 7 new deaths. Since the beginning of the pandemic, there have been 236 COVID-19 related deaths in Manitoba. There are 296 people in hospital in Manitoba, including 52 in intensive care. More than 5,300 Manitobans have also recovered from the novel coronavirus. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe says it's too soon for COVID-19 measures being implemented last week to have made an impact. He says his government will continue to evaluate the situation and will consider further measures. The province's health authority announced that there were 6,708 people with active cases of COVID-19. Close to 3,700 have also recovered from the virus in Saskatchewan. Deputy Opposition Leader Candice Bergen has accused Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for not having a smart plan to deal with COVID-19 when it comes to securing a vaccine and travel restrictions.
11 months after COVID has hit, thousands of lives, millions of jobs, and Canadians' freedoms have been lost. We are on the verge of a mental health crisis, and lockdowns that were meant to be a last resort and buy some time have become this Prime Minister's only answer. Smart border action, rapid testing, good data, they're all part of the solution and they are all part of the federal responsibility. But the Prime Minister is sitting on his hands and doing none of the heavy lifting.
Mr. Speaker, I've spoken about vaccines and rapid tests, so let me talk for a moment about the border. And let me start by reminding all Canadians and visitors to Canada that a 14-day quarantine is mandatory, and we expect and require people to abide by that. When it comes to the Canada-U.S. border, let me also say this. We have imposed unprecedented restrictions on travel across that essential border, and we have done it while maintaining the essential lifeline of trade between Canada and the U.S.
The head of AstraZeneca says his COVID-19 vaccine will be affordable and available to people all around the world. The drug developed by the company and researchers at Oxford University have proven to be around 90% effective in large-scale trials. It is the third such vaccine to show promising results this month. The pharmaceutical company pledged it won't make a profit on the vaccine during the pandemic, and it reached agreements with international health organizations and governments that put each dose at around $2.50 US. Alberta Liberal Party leader David Kahn is stepping down. Kahn failed to win a seat in the Calgary Mountain View riding in the April 2019 vote. In fact, the Liberals failed to win any seats at all. A lawyer who specializes in Indigenous rights and land claims litigation, Kahn won the party's leadership in 2017. The Liberals, who were once the province's official opposition, fell to third-party status in 2012 and only elected one member in 2015. The federal Conservatives say the new commercial rent relief program offered by the Trudeau Liberals has taken too long to arrive and has shortcomings that need to be fixed. Tory small business critic Pat Kelly says December's rent is due in a week, and today is the first day that businesses can apply for the new Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy.
There's really no excuse for it. The government had all summer to come into September with draft legislation that is properly thought out to support small businesses, and they blew it. Today is November 23rd, and this is the first day that small businesses have been able to apply for the rent subsidy. Most didn't even qualify for the old subsidy, but even for those that did, that program expired in September, and December's rent is a little over a week away.
Kelly says the Liberals also need to accept a motion passed 2 weeks ago calling for a halt to the audits of small businesses that have received the federal wage subsidy. You know, when it comes to technology, it seems like we're spending more and more time with it. More time streaming movies, especially during the pandemic lockdowns. We're also spending a lot of time on our phones texting, calling, and playing video games. Now, when it comes to technology, we have to be very careful not to let it control us. That's according to Carrie Oberbrunner, author of the book Unhackable: Close the Gap Between Dreaming and Doing.
There's so much information coming at us that instead of responding to our day, we essentially react to our day. Most people within the first 10 minutes, and guilty, we're checking our phones. Well, what happens when you check your phone? It's everyone else's agenda for your life. And apps come with preloaded notifications. We have wearables today. I get it. I mean, technology is a tool we're supposed to use, but now technology is using us.
Catch the full interview with Carrie Oberbrunner, CEO of Lighting Souls, and Jeanette Rocher coming up later in our program. My City Care in Lethbridge is currently setting up their Shop of Wonders workshop that will allow disadvantaged families in our community to receive a blessed Christmas. As Micah Quinn explains now, last year the program served over 900 kids, and this year they're expecting to serve closer to 1,000.
Imagine a Christmas shopping experience with an abundance of toys to choose from. That's what the Shop of Wonders provides for families that are struggling financially during the Christmas season.
So it's kind of everything's all decorated, and the families come in and they get a personal host kind of shopper with them. They get free gift wrap. They're kind of They get to go through and pick out gifts for each of their children for free. And then if they bring children along with them, they actually get to pick out a gift as well for mom and dad.
Tribble says My City Care is seeing a greater need this year in the number of registrations.
Yeah, we do know that all the agencies and organizations in Lethbridge are probably going to see a little bit of an increase this year just due to the situation that we're in, the economic impacts of COVID-19 on the families. We do, and through other programs, have been seeing the financial struggles that families and individuals are going through this year. And we do know that mental health is such an important issue. And so what we're hoping to be able to do is to help bring hope and bring a sense of community to these families. We're excited that we're able to serve them and be a part of just a bigger community within even the Christmas Hope Partnership.
The plan is to be open to the public in the Old Lethbridge Fire Hall No. 1 from December 1st to December 23rd, and toy donations are still needed.
Yeah, so the kind of donations that we look for this program is everything from gift wrap to small kind of stocking stuffer items, all the way up to those Santa kind of items. We look for something usually in the $30 to $40 kind of price range for those big Santa kind of items. And then each of the family that comes through, they get some stocking stuffers, they get a couple smaller gifts, and then one big Santa gift.
To register or donate to the Shop of Wonders, you can visit myvictory.ca/MyCityCare. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Avonlea Homes is looking to give back to the community this Christmas season, and they need your help. Their Copperwood Show Home is a drop-off site for their food drive, and they say they want to really pack the pantry.
The food drive is running now till December 14th. Our goal is to fill our pantry with canned goods, coffee, tea, juice, pasta, any meat products, everything that should be non-perishable. And we're going to be donating it to the Lethbridge Food Bank.
We as home builders, we feel a certain responsibility to be able to give as much back to the community as we can, especially in years like 2020, as funny as it is to say, it's just important to be able to kind of use our social media, use kind of the base and the clients that we, have worked with in the past to be able to just be a place for people to kind of come and just know they can donate to and be able to do it in a safe way. A lot of people are asking questions like how to do it with social distancing, leave it outside on our driveway outside of our show homes and just being able to we'll do the rest. We want people to be able to do it in a safe manner and not feel like it's a risk coming into a show home or anything like that.
The Pack the Pantry Holiday Food Drive ends on December the 13th. Online Christmas shopping is in full swing, and with that comes lots of scammers. The Better Business Bureau in Calgary is warning shoppers about what to look for when going online. There are several tips you can use to save yourself from scammers this holiday season.
Another trick that scammers use is that they lower the prices. So you see something and it's a great deal for you, but don't be fooled. These are oftentimes disguised as flash sales, online discounts, and they're just using these tactics to get you to click in because everybody's looking for a deal, especially when it comes to Black Friday or Cyber Monday shopping if you're planning to buy your gifts during that time. If the price is too good to be true, it probably is.
If you encounter a scam while you're online shopping, you can report it to the Better Business Bureau Scam Tracker. With COVID-19 changing the landscape of the way we work and communicate, Lethbridge Victim Services is also impacted, going from in-person visits to over the phone. As video journalist Ainsley O'Reilly explains now, the volunteer program is an integral part of our community, and right now, they're looking for volunteers.
It takes a special kind of person to volunteer with Lethbridge Victim Services.
You really need to be an empathetic, compassionate listener. You need to want to encourage and empower someone to make changes and move forward in their own process of healing.
The program recently shared an impactful recruitment video, hoping to reach out to interested volunteers. The group is hoping to bring on 20 new volunteers. Men and women who will offer emotional, practical, and even court support for people who have experienced trauma.
The people that we work with, this is their crisis, this is their trauma, so we use all the training and skills and techniques that we have to help them throughout their worst moments.
We're looking for people that are prepared to sit beside someone, really use some awareness of how trauma can play out.
The commitment is just 2 to 3 shifts a month. And longtime crisis support workers say it is a rewarding experience.
I've seen an entire spectrum of how people deal with trauma. Every single person is different, and I would say lots of it is successful.
Applications will be accepted until December 16th. Online interviews will take place between January 11th and 22nd, and there are 2 phases of training before offers of acceptance are issued in mid-February. For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
2 people died and multiple others were injured in a stabbing Sunday night at a church in San Jose, California. Police say homeless people had been brought into the shelter from the cold weather. Officials say many others were also injured in the attack. No church services were being held at the time of the stabbings. No further information was released, and an investigation by police is ongoing. Using YouTube videos as a guide and seeds from store-bought produce, Sijo Zachariah and his father began a farm that helped to feed 20 families in India while under lockdown.
I had time, I had this energy, I had nothing on my mind. So I thought, okay, why don't I do something that's good for the earth, good for me, good for the community, and sort of, goes on. That's when the whole thing stuck me, what about our food security? What's going to happen? How are we going to feed ourselves? The shops started closing down, they weren't getting stocks, and then we started sharing food, and whatever other neighbors had, they started giving to us. We started saving the seeds, we started sharing the seeds, we started teaching others how to grow their own crops so that everyone can have some sort of crop growing in the land. I think that's why I got into gardening, maybe, I don't know. Because all these things used to spark curiosity in me. And then I was getting quality time with my dad as well. So I think it was like a win-win. So now one thing that genuinely excites me is gardening. This is what makes me happy.
That is so cool to see. And it's almost like gardening weather here in southwestern Alberta. It's been so mild lately. Considering this is the 3rd week of November, it's not been bad at all. It's still well above seasonal, and that trend will continue this week. Complete weather details are coming right up. We had cloud mixed with sunshine today and fairly mild, not a bad day overall. Tonight, just a few clouds developing with a low near -6. Tomorrow, mainly sunny with a high expected near 6. Wednesday, mixture of sun and cloud and a high of 2. Warming up Thursday to 5 degrees. Even warmer on Friday with a high expected near 8. Saturday, cooling off slightly under a mainly sunny sky and a high of 3. Sunday, sunshine again with the mercury climbing to 9. Looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 2 degrees and an average low of -9. The highest temperature on this date was recorded in 2005 at 16 degrees, and the record low was a very chilly -33 in 1996. Sunrise was at 7:56, sunset at 4:40. Let's see how tomorrow's shaping up across the country now. Expect rain and a high of 10 degrees in Victoria, BC. Periods of rain and a high of 9 in Vancouver. It should be mainly cloudy and 0 in Edmonton on Tuesday. Just a few clouds and 4 degrees in Calgary. Overcast and -4 for Regina. Mainly cloudy and -7 for Saskatoon tomorrow. Expect light snow and 0 in Winnipeg. Clouds mixed with sun and +1 for Toronto on Tuesday. Clearing and -3 for both Ottawa and Montreal. In Atlantic Canada, expect light flurries and 0 in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Snow mixed with rain and a high of 3 degrees in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Rain mixed with snow and 5 degrees for Charlottetown, PEI. And in St. John's, Newfoundland, expect rain with a high of 12 degrees for tomorrow. General Motors is being forced to recall close to 6 million pickup trucks and SUVs around the world that are equipped with potentially dangerous Takata airbag inflators. The move will cost the automaker $1.2 billion US. GM petitioned the U.S. Highway Traffic Safety Administration 4 times since 2016 to avoid a recall, arguing that the airbag inflator canisters have been safe on the road and in testing. But owners say the company has placed a priority on profits and not safety after 27 people were killed by the exploding inflators, including 18 in the United States. Loblaw will begin testing the use of autonomous trucks early next year to deliver goods in the Greater Toronto area. The grocer said it signed a multi-year partnership deal with technology company Gatik to begin the test in January. Gatik will operate 5 vehicles for Loblaw up to 7 days a week on routes with fixed pickup and drop-off locations. All vehicles will have autonomous self-driving software for urban, suburban, and highway driving. They will also have a co-pilot driver as a safety precaution. Loblaw is also expanding its PC Health app it rolled out in Atlantic Canada to include Alberta, British Columbia, and Ontario. The grocery and pharmacy retailer says residents can now download the health and wellness app for free. It will provide access to registered nurses and dietitians as digital health programs that reward users with the company's PC Optimum points. It comes amid increasing efforts by retailers to extend customer experiences and loyalty beyond brick-and-mortar stores. More than 120 Naturalizer shoe stores in Canada and the United States will be closed by early 2021 as its parent company adopts a digital sales strategy for the chain. Calera says a large percentage of the sales already originate online, a trend in consumer shopping that has accelerated during the pandemic. For the 9 months ending October 1st, Calera's revenue fell to $1.55 billion US from $2.22 billion a year earlier. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 75 points in the day to finish at 17,094. The Dow was up 327 points to 29,591. The S&P 500 was up 20 points to 3577, and the Nasdaq was up 25 points on the day to finish at 11,880. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 64 cents to 43.06 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 6 cents to 271 US. Gold was down a cent to 1837.86 US an ounce, and silver was even on the day at 23.60 US an ounce. Wheat is at $268 per metric ton, barley's at $269, canola's at $584, and corn is at $288 per metric ton. Live cattle were up $1.90 to $111, feeder cattle were up $3.23 to $137.83, and lean hogs were up 83 cents to $64.95. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 76.43 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, a coalition of labor groups is calling on the province to order a lockdown to help reverse the uptick in coronavirus cases. Alberta saw 1,549 new active cases today. It also says the province should require masks to be worn in public places throughout Alberta. The COVID-19 crisis resolution has been signed by 18 unions, including the United Nurses of Alberta and the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Coming up, Jeanette Rocher speaks with Carrie Oberbrunner, an author who wrote the book called Unhackable: Close the Gap Between Dreaming and Doing. They'll discuss the dangers of having technology control us. That Q&A is on deck. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. The Lethbridge Police Charity Check Stop is taking place on Saturday, November 28th in the NMAX Center parking lot beginning at 11 a.m. They're collecting new unwrapped toy donations for the Lethbridge Family Services Angel Tree, along with non-perishable food items for the Lethbridge Food Bank. Come out and help make someone's Christmas extra special this year. For details, visit lethbridgepolice.ca. Shop of Wonders is looking for volunteers beginning in December to help bring some Christmas cheer to families who need a special something this year. This is a My City Care initiative through My Victory Church in Lethbridge, which helps to give people hope and a hand up. Volunteers will wrap gifts, entertain kids, and assist with other tasks. To learn more about this opportunity, call Carol at 403-942-1378 or email carol@myvictory.ca. The Ho Ho Holiday 5K is the most festive fun run in Canada. Combining the magic of the holiday season with community engagement and fitness, this fun run helps raise funds to support Make-A-Wish Canada. Each registration includes a Santa suit, finisher's medal, a holiday treat, and timing app. Beginning November 25th until December 31st, you can join thousands of Santas virtually across Canada, spreading Christmas cheer and helping support Make-A-Wish Canada. For more information, visit hohoholidayfivek.com. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
COVID-19 has thrown many lives into disorder, disrupting our normal and getting us off track. But is there a secret to getting back on track and fulfilling the dreams and goals that we have in life? Today's guest is Carrie Oberbrunner, who is a life coach and CEO of Lighting Souls and author of Unhackable: Close the Gap Between Dreaming and Doing, available at carrieoberbrunner.com. Carrie joins me today via Skype from Columbus, Ohio. Carrie, hello. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Jeanette.
All right. So, Carrie, can you give us a brief overview of what your book is about?
Yeah. So nobody woke up on January 1st saying a pandemic is going to happen, or politics, at least here in the U.S., are going to be so traumatic. But the reality is that we woke up to 2020 thinking everything would be normal, but in a real way, we got hacked. And when people hear the word hack, they often think about a bank account or their phone. But the word hacked means when someone or something gains unauthorized access to a system or a computer. And when we think about our own bodies, they're made up of systems, circulatory, respiratory, and our brains are like supercomputers. So in a real way, we woke up thinking everything was going to be cool, but then life hacked us. And there's a cost to being hacked mentally.
Okay, so we know basically what happens when our computer gets hacked, right? But what exactly is a hack on our lives? Can you maybe give us some examples?
Yes. So most people wake up and they think, you know what, I have so many cool things I'm going to do today, even if they're quarantined. They think I have a plan. But the reality is that we touch our phones with taps, swipes, or clicks 2,600 times a day, which is crazy. We have an average of 5,000 ads pass before our eyes. We have to make 35,000 decisions every single day. In fact, about food, it's 226. So we're in this world right now where there's so much information coming at us that instead of responding to our day, we essentially react to our day. Most people within the first 10 minutes, and guilty, we're checking our phones. Well, what happens when you check your phone? It's everyone else's agenda for your life. And apps come with preloaded notifications. We have wearables today. I get it. I mean, technology is a tool we're supposed to use, but now technology is using us.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? So Carrie, how can we protect ourselves from these so-called hacks?
Well, until we get what's called our boon, and it's just a fancy word to say your big dream, but until we understand what our dream is in life, we actually don't care if we get hacked. It's kind of like saying, well, you know what, this is just the way it is, and this is how things are. But once you have a dream, then you suddenly say that dream is worth more than binging on Netflix or going to the latest games and always being full with meetings. So the point is that nobody wakes up and says, I want to have a hacked life. But instead, at the end of the day, we often say things like, I'm burnt out, I'm running on fumes, I'm going on empty, I feel fried. We use all these terms that explain our energy level and how it really is finite and limited. But the reality is that we just think we can take on more and more. And part of the problem, Jeanette, is that human knowledge used to double every 1,000 years. So like you think about that in the years past, today we absorb more information than the average person used to do in their entire lifetime. We do in one day. So you can imagine like teens, young people especially, but everybody, we have so much coming at us right now. We no longer can navigate above the noise. So I give little tips. In fact, I call them focus filters. There's 3 of them. One is urgency, another one is agency, and then the third is energy. So let's talk about urgency first. We know that in America, with the medical world, we can just go into the doctor and we can wait in the waiting room and this type of thing. But if we go to something called urgent care here in the US, it costs more, but all of a sudden we get better service because there's a cost involved. Like if you don't get this person on some machines quick, there's going to be a penalty. There's going to be a death maybe. So urgency in life always amplifies up our attention. And that's what we're in right now, the attention economy that's measured with eyeballs and eardrums. And people, marketers especially, want us to pay attention. In other words, there's a cost. Before they pay with sales, we pay attention. So Jeanette, what I encourage people to do is that first focus filter is to put a deadline with their dreams. Don't say, someday I'm going to write a book. Someday I'm going to start a business. Bring that thing back and say, February 5th, 2021, I'm going to create a business plan. And now all of a sudden that you have a deadline, you don't get hacked as much because you say, that deadline is keeping me on track. But most of us, we don't have deadlines in life.
Now, a lot of people have been, hacked by the COVID pandemic, losing jobs or having hours reduced. So what's your advice on how to get a proper perspective on all of this?
Yeah. I think the number one thing you do is you need to guard your mind. We wake up in one of two ways. We wake up with what's called a victim mindset or a victor mindset. A victim mindset, which again, we're all guilty of, but it says the world happens to me. So this is where we wake up and we say, what did Trump say? What did Biden say? What does the economy say? Like, we literally say the world's happening to me. And when you have a victim mindset, you actually feel powerless because you say, I can't control COVID. I can't control this. I can't control that. Well, a victor, and by the way, victims, remember it like this. They lie in bed. Blame, excuses, and denial. BED. Blame, excuses, and denial. And I've been guilty. But a victor says, I happen to the world. And it doesn't mean you're God or something, but it means I happen to my day. I happen to my smartphone. I happen to my family. Like, it brings back a control and a power to the average person, which feels so powerless. And the way that you remember a victor is oar, like an oar. Like you put your oar in the water and move forward. Ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And so every day we can either lie in blame, excuses, and denial, or ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And it could be the small things. It could be like, you know what, kids? We're going to actually go out into a walk at the park. Like, that's much better than saying, well, let's just sit here and watch Twitter and see what's blowing up. Because again, we are now creators instead of consumers.
Wow. Now, Gary, I know that setting goals and making plans is a big part of what you teach. So what kinds of goals and plans would you recommend to someone who's, say, lost their job?
Yeah, I think sometimes we shoot too high. And I'm really big into celebrating the small wins. Because if you look at a journey, let's just say you're looking at a mountain and you say, oh my gosh, that would take forever to get up there. Of course, you're going to be overwhelmed. That's like getting the new job. Oh my gosh, I have to go get a resume. I have to get my hair done. If you have hair, I don't have it. So that puts me advantage. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's this big task. So instead, you break it down into smaller goals, micro goals, we call this. And what happens is you start then celebrating the micro goals. Like, I'm going to open up a Word document. Like, as dumb as that sounds, that's a win. And then I'm going to put my name, I'm going to put my experience, you just start laying it out. I'm going to contact a few people and you start celebrating. And here's what happens. The word enthusiasm, you start feeling it again. And enthusiasm is infectious. You know when someone's enthusiastic. The cool thing about that word is it means theos, God, God within, possessed by God. And so literally you can tell when someone's amped, excited, when it's authentic. And that's something that actually does get you hired, not someone who's sitting there saying, how much time do I get off? And what are the benefits? That's very self-focused. You want to be other-centric.
Interesting. Okay, so most of us have some sort of dream, right? So things that we'd like to achieve in life, but a lot of us may not be so sure if these desires are actually part of our destiny or if they're just a pipe dream. So any advice on how to know what God's will is for our life?
That's a great question. I used to have this approach that said, I'm not taking action unless God shows me. And it sounds spiritual, but it's actually very selfish. It's like the parable of the talent. When God gives out 5, 2, and 1, the guy with 1's basically like, hey, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to bury it because I'm afraid. What I like is a default for action. Because there's a verse that says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. There's two ways to view that verse. One way is if I get tight with God, I'm going to get a Lamborghini. Okay, that's not the right view. The right view is if I get tight with God, the desires that I have in my heart are going to be God-given. It's like a husband says to a wife, you don't have to guess what the partner wants because you're hanging with them, you're spending time with them, that pretty soon you know what they want. And so I just want to encourage people, if you don't know what God's will for your life is, delight yourself in him and then trust that the desires in your heart are God-given and have that default be action. And if God wants to stop you, he will. It's very different. I think the other way is just living a life of victimhood again, where God's got to show me, I don't want to fail. And in scripture, it says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. We must have faith. And faith is taking action when you can't see all the results.
Interesting. So when it comes to pursuing a dream, lots of us get excited and initially motivated, but then we get discouraged or distracted or we procrastinate. Of course, I'm so guilty of that. So how do we overcome these obstacles?
One thing is to write down the cost. What's the cost of not achieving my dream? And I have this little exercise, Jeanette, where it's kind of fun, it's kind of silly, but it works. But I call it fictitious follower imaginary impact. All it means is that you write yourself a letter about someone who experienced your dream. So for me, it's books. In other words, for the book Unhackable, before I wrote it, I literally wrote a letter that said, "Dear Carrie, I've never met you, but I read your book and it changed my life. Let me tell you the story." All of a sudden, when you write out a fake letter like that and put it up on your desk, when you sit there and say, well, gee, I want to watch Netflix, or I want to go do this, or I want to do that, suddenly you look at that letter and say, hey, Julie is not going to be able to have a changed life unless I do it. And so everything, like even you might say, I have a desire to clean the garage. Fine, that's a dream. Write it down though. Like maybe it's the kids will be appreciative, or you'll be able to find things and you'll have a less stressed life. But think about the after. You see what I'm saying? Think about the finished dream before you start, and then you can actually partake in some of that joy, and then it pushes you through that messy middle when we often get hacked.
Now, this couldn't possibly be a solo journey, right? So how important is it to have someone alongside you, someone who can mentor you and encourage you?
Yes. Listen, every movie that we love, whether it's Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Hunger Games, whatever, they always have this team. You never find this self-made man, self-made woman. Frodo had Sam. Luke Skywalker had his friends as well. So you just have to realize that it isn't a solo sport. And as you share your vision, other people will want to participate in that.
And on the flip side, of course, how important is it to avoid negative people in your life?
Oh my gosh, negative people. They will keep you down. They will hold you back. There's been a quote by Charles Tremendous Jones that said, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around. Yeah, if you're hanging around other victims, other complainers, they are going to bring you down because you're an exception. They don't want you around succeeding because you look bad on them. So there's a story about crabs where they literally trap crabs by putting bait in the bottom. The crabs fall in. One starts climbing out and the other crabs start pulling it back and literally will kill the crab if it's trying to escape because they don't want to be wrong. Well, in life, when we try to escape our circumstances and create a new future, other people who will pull you down don't want that. And so, yes, you need to be around people who are going to lift you up and raise you up.
Wow. And Carrie, we're almost out of time, but any final thoughts and advice for viewers who have been life hacked and are struggling to get back on track?
Yeah, I'd say take the free assessment. We have an assessment at unhackablebook.com where people can literally look and answer 30 questions, and then out pops this report that says, here's where you're getting hacked. And they can find a lot of clarity and a lot of help over on that website.
Wow, interesting. Well, Carrie, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Carrie Oberbrunner is the author of Unhackable, Close the Gap Between Dreaming and Doing, available at carrieoberbrunner.com. Thanks so much for sharing with us today, Carrie.
Thanks for having me.
Raising a child with disabilities comes with challenges and victories. Throw in a global pandemic, and those challenges increase exponentially. Joining me now today is Dr. Edna Jacoto SM. She's the Chair of Family Support for Children with Disabilities and a proud mom of 4 daughters, one of whom has Down syndrome and just turned 17. Dr. Edna Jacoto SM, welcome back to BCN.
Thank you, Hal. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Edna, one of your daughters is actually home from high school because of a recent outbreak here in Lethbridge.
Yes, she is. We got the text and the email last night, and so we had to scramble to get in touch with 811 to try to book a test for her. And the school has been amazing. They phoned right away to find out if everything was okay, and they just gave us the details. And then they phoned again today just to make sure that everything was fine and how schooling is going to roll out. But we are not quite sure yet because they are ready to teach and everything is online for her, but we have to be with her when she's studying. But since she's supposed to be in isolation, we are not quite sure how that's going to look like right now. So we still have to work on the details about how to be able to support her. She has her EA ready to go, but it's our end that we are trying to work out the details.
Now let's discuss parenting a child who has a disability or is differently abled. Tell me about this journey, what it's been like for you and your family.
I think initially was a bit of a surprise because we didn't know that we're going to have her with the disability. But I think that, with time, you get to understand more about the condition. And then you learn to appreciate just the strengths that she has. But I'm not going to say that it's been an easy journey. It's a challenging journey. It stretches you as an adult. It stretches you as a human being. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Now, when you were told that your daughter had Down syndrome, what were your thoughts and feelings about it initially?
I think it was shock because we didn't know, and fears about how life was going to be like because I didn't know much about Down syndrome at the time. But then as time went on, we sort of knew that it was going to be okay. We knew it was going to be a lot of work, but we knew that it was going to be okay. Now, let me backtrack a bit. One of the reasons that we found out was that she had a heart condition when she was born because her physical features were not very consistent since she's dark skinned, because most whites who get it here, it's more visible. But because she's dark skinned, you needed to have experience to be able to identify it. So they weren't quite sure, but they suspected because of the heart condition. So once they did the genetic testing and we were clear, that we knew that, okay, we know what we are dealing with now. So it's been lots of up and downs, but I think that we are okay with it, and she's doing amazing well. So.
Now, Edna, you have 4 daughters. What is the family dynamic like? And more importantly, do you see any time in the bathroom?
I like that question. Well, family dynamics. Okay, so our oldest is 21, soon to be 22. And so she has been a really great big sister, and the 2 younger ones will tend to play together, and our daughter, she's the second one. So she's very independent. Let me just put it that way. She's super independent in the sense that she likes to do things by herself. But when she needs help, sometimes she doesn't want to ask, except when she sees a bug, like she sees an ant crawling, then she screams, "Help!" But other than that, yeah.
Now, the COVID-19 measures and restrictions have probably been a challenge for you on many different levels. Now, what have you done to ensure your daughter is safe and is understanding of the situation, your child who has Down syndrome?
Well, we've done several things. First of all, she needed to understand what was going on. Initially, she didn't quite understand why she couldn't go to school. So when schools were shut down, we told her she couldn't go to school. And I think she didn't quite understand. So she likes to get her stuff ready the day before school. So she sets out her clothes and gets her backpack ready. The night before school, she even gets out her lunch bag and packs her lunch. So when we told her she couldn't go to school, I think she was a bit confused. And then when we told her that we had to go pick up her stuff from school, she thought she was going back to school. So she decided to pack her lunch bag. And I said, well, yeah, it's not that kind. We are just going to pick up your stuff. So after we came home and they started online schooling, I think she understood that she couldn't go back to school for a while. And so we explained to her, the school explained to her, and we tried to take her out on walks because she couldn't have any programming. We usually hire someone to help us on a private basis, but that person couldn't come into the house because of COVID, and her programming through an agency was cut short too. So we had to get creative in trying to do things just to get her engaged. And that was a bit of a challenge because my husband and I were both working from home. So trying to work from home and then make sure we engage her was a bit of a challenge.
Now, when everything was shut down during the pandemic, were any family support programs available to you and your family?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that she used to go to a program in town every Friday, and that was shut down. They tried Zoom, but it wasn't the same. She just wasn't as engaged as she would have been. And then she was involved in Special Olympics. That was shut down. She couldn't do that too. So everything was taken away, just like everybody else. But I guess with her, it was more challenging because she doesn't talk very much. So we had to constantly try to probe to find out what's going on. And she shut down completely because she likes routine. She knows when she wakes up, she goes to school, comes home, and she has that routine. So she shut down initially. Throughout the summer, she actually didn't want to communicate much. But once the programs opened up a little bit in July, things got a bit better.
What have you heard about other families and how they've been impacted, other families who have disabled children, how they've been impacted by this virus and all of the COVID-19 measures?
I think that the impact comes in, well, depending on the nature of the disability. So if your child has very complex needs, it's obviously more difficult because then you have to get workers in. And so the government was very flexible in allowing parents to try as much as possible to customize their programs because there are regulations in place regarding whom you can hire to work in your home. Family members couldn't help you, but they were very flexible enough in agreeing to allow parents, upon request, to be able to make those changes so family members could help if people couldn't come into the home to help them.
Now, you are also the chair of the Lethbridge Christian School Parent Council. What support is there for children with disabilities right now?
Okay, so right now, I think that depending on their needs, if the kids are inside the school, they are able to support them. But I'm not quite clear on what is happening with kids who are not at school right now. Yeah, I still have to get clarification on that. But with kids who are in the school, they do have support.
Now, Edna, do you see any potential problems down the road or even right now when it comes to schools and how they've reopened, even during the pandemic?
I think that it's a very difficult situation and a complex one because on one hand, I think schools are good for the mental health of our children because, I could see even firsthand that it really affected my girls because they couldn't socialize with their friends. So that affected them. But on the other hand, we know that when they are exposed to other students, there's a potential to have that outbreak. So um, from my perspective, I think it's a very, very difficult situation, but we cannot live in a society that doesn't have any risk. So, provided they are able to manage it, I think I'm okay with it. Personally, I'm okay with them going. But of course, this wouldn't work for every family. There are some parents who would choose to homeschool their kids. And I'm so thankful that in our province, that option exists for parents. So whichever one you choose, they are able to support you.
Let's talk about your daughter who has Down syndrome again for just a moment here, Edna. What kind of independence does she have now that you can really enjoy in life?
Oh my goodness. She can do things by herself, like she can go to the bathroom by herself. She doesn't need anyone to help her to go to the bathroom. She When she's coming back from school, we drive her in the morning. When she's coming back, she comes home on the yellow bus. She gets off at her stop most of the time, and then she walks home. She's able to eat on her own. She can navigate the iPad technology more than I can. And those are skills that, like, I am so thankful for that she has those skills.
I mean, like most kids, she probably has hopes for her future. Has she talked to mom and dad about what she'd like to do when she grows up?
She doesn't say very much, so you have to prompt her. So next year she's going to turn 18, which is a big transition year, adult year for her. So we had so many plans in the spring to put in effect just to get her preparing for that stage. But unfortunately, because of COVID, all those plans were cut short. So we have to wait. And then just as things open up and we're ready to get things into motion, she's in isolation. So it's been up and down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride, definitely. Edna, what advice would you offer parents who are struggling with raising a child with a disability?
I think, first of all, you have to see them as any other human being. I think you have to have that perspective that they don't have a deficit. That is just who they are. They have challenges in life. So you have to just accept them as human beings and treat them as human beings. Secondly, you have to see what they have to offer. They may not have certain cognitive skills, they may not have certain physical skills, but maybe a smile. Just look for the good in what they have, because I personally believe that everyone has something to offer and they have something. I mean, she has enriched my life so much. I don't know how my life would have been without her. I've gotten to know lots of people that have made such a big difference that I wouldn't have known but for her. So I would say that just look at the positive, and when you are having a bad day, ask for help. It is so important because the emotional and physical strains of raising a child who has so many challenges, it can be overwhelming, but it's important to know that there is help out there. So you can talk to your caseworker, talk to family members, get a support group around you. And a lot of the groups that, kids with special needs, they have different groups for different kinds of disabilities, if I should put it that way. So reach out to people and talk to people. It may look challenging, but you can overcome. And last of all, just take care of yourself. I think self-care is so important. Just get out, take a walk. It's not expensive. It doesn't cost money to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. So just get out there and enjoy the outdoors. Clear your head and talk to people. Yeah.
Amen to that. Edna, let's also talk about your faith and your relationship with God and how important that is, especially as you navigate through a pandemic and raising a child with a disability.
Oh my goodness. I think that has been the thing that has gotten me through all the challenges, because it's not easy. And so my faith actually has strengthened me in the sense that when I face challenges, I know that, I may not know what lies ahead, but I can lean on God and know that, He's always there, even when it seems like the sky is falling. He's always there to just see me through whatever challenges that I'm going through. And also, I have a very strong faith family that have been very, very supportive, and that has always helped. And also, I think that um, having a child with challenges drives you to ask questions. And if you don't look at the right place for the answers to those questions, your faith can be shaken. And that was what happened to me, because initially I was looking for answers. And then I realized that it's not a bad thing. I mean, having a child with needs is not a curse. You didn't do anything wrong. That is just who they are. And so when you have that understanding by getting into the word and knowing the word, it really, really helps. So I'll just encourage people that, don't look at the wrong places for answers to your questions. Just make sure that if you're a person of faith, get into your word, because you will never know what you will find every day that will strengthen you. That has always kept me going, because I try to get into the word as much as I can on a daily basis. Sometimes it's just one verse, and we have YouVersion app, right? So you can just look at the verse of the day and just think about it during the day. And that really, really helps.
Amen. Well said. Dr. Edna Jakota Assem, Chair of the Family Support for Children with Disabilities, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.